Joe Perry, I'm a big fan, Joe. Not only of you as a tremendous player, obviously, but away from the table as well. I think you're a great commentator and a really top bloke as well. So I do thank you for taking the time out to come on the podcast.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No worries at all. I met you years ago at a Paul Hunter memorial competition in Leeds. Me and ex-snooker player Michael Rhodes, one of my best mates, came down.
Okay.
And you were there. You came over for a bit crack. I was completely snooker crazy at the time, obviously. I hadn't met any professionals in the flesh properly. You came over and you were so just kind of down to earth, normal, the way like a normal person should be. But you were just so down to earth and it was just so refreshing. And yeah, I've been a massive fan of yours ever since.
All right, good. Yeah, well, I don't see myself as anything other than just someone that's good at snooker, So, I like a laugh like the rest of them. And if there's some guys in the club look like they're having a good time, I want to be a part of it. And yeah, I know Michael Rose liked to giggle. He's a good lad. So yeah, no wonder I was sort of floating about somewhere around there.
It's been a crazy year, Joe. I mean, how's it been for you being someone who was so kind of used to traveling all over the world? It must have been pretty surreal for you.
I think to separate into two, like, the snooker world and then like the real world, if you like. The real world's not been too bad. Where we live's not the worst place. Got a nice house, nice big garden. There's parks and things around. It's not overpopulated.
Yeah.
So we've sort of managed on that regard. You haven't really had to do that much different. Obviously, no one can go out, so you just get on with it.
Yeah.
But the snooker's been a bit of a struggle, because I'm one of the guys on the tour that I don't spend much time in my room. If I'm not playing, I'm either watching or in the players' lounge, chatting, just talking, just general stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like sitting in hotel rooms. So that's been difficult for me because you're either playing, practicing, or in your room. So that's been real difficult for me. And it took me quite a while to get my head around that. I wasn't enjoying it at all. Wasn't looking forward to going to tournaments. The practice side of things, from an early age, I've never been one for practicing on my own. I've always liked to practice against players on a competitive practice level.
Yeah.
Our club's not really been open. They've allowed us to go in there if we want, but the club's not open. So there was no value in that. Luckily, I've got a table at home, but it's meant that I've just literally played on my own for the best part of a year, which is something like I've never, ever done in my career. So I've had to adjust. But like I say, I'm sure there's plenty of snooker players that have had it tougher than me.
I think a few of the lads as well who unfortunately don't have a table in the house as well, who try to get to the clubs. I mean, I know a lot of them. I've spoken to like Martin O'Donnell and Elliot and that, who have clubs that the owners allow them just to go in and have a knock. But for players who don't have that kind of luxury and they don't have a table in the house, I can picture how they're not going to be at least match sharp, even practice sharp, let alone match sharp. Yeah,
absolutely. But with World Snooker, you can't do nothing but praise them. Really,
Absolutely.
They took a gamble. They were one of the sports to like be a bit of a few trials with the events, and they've done so well. So even though in the beginning it was tough, when we first come back for the World Championship and some of the early ones, because no one was sharp, everyone was rusty. It was completely new surroundings. No one knew what to expect. But since then, we've literally been on and off as we always are. Okay, it's only ever on and off at Milton Keynes, but at least we're playing week in, week out. So even if you don't get access to a table, it's not long in between matches, so you don't really get too rusty.
Yeah.
So yeah, incredible job World Snooker have done.
I think they don't get the credit it deserves as well. I think I had Paul Collier on, and Paul was telling us about just the back of last year. I mean, I know Twitter's the worst place to go on, but he said because of the testing and a few of the lads, it took a little bit longer for them to get out to get the game started. He said people don't understand, it's back to what you've just said there, what goes in the background and how much they've had to do just to accommodate everybody. I think they've done an absolutely amazing job, and they haven't been praised enough, in my opinion. Definitely not.
No, I'd go along with that. I do the odd bit of commentary, a bit of punditry. So I do see what goes on a bit more backstage, and I've sort of been active on the World Snooker Commission for a few years. So, we get to see a bit more of the other side, just the getting things set up for everyone to be tested and get results. And, once you get tested and results go off, it's sort of pretty much out of World Snooker's hands. if the lab has a little problem one evening and they can't get the results done, that's not World Snooker's fault. So if the guys don't get the results back to play at 10, they have to play at 1, it's really not the end of the world. But we've all been guilty of it. Snooker players are probably the worst. If there's something to moan about, they'll find it and they'll have a go. It's just the way of the world. And snooker players, they, for all their good stuff, they do like a little whinge and a moan about really things that are not really worth worrying about, to be honest.
I know you've mentioned there Milton Keynes. I think Milton Keynes is starting to become a bit of a second home for people.
Yeah, like it's just in your car, and when you put recent destinations on your sat nav, it's always the top one. But I don't need it anymore. I know Milton Keynes pretty well now. For me again, it's been lucky that it's only around the corner. But then early on, I was sort of like, I think it worked against me early on because it was close enough to sort of drive there, play my match, drive home if I had a day off, and then drive back again. And it was really difficult for me to think that I was playing in a professional snooker match, because I knew I was going to go and play a best of 7 and then go home, have dinner at home. Before I left the house, she'd say to me, "What we're having for dinner tonight?" And I say, "Oh, whatever." And then I'm going to play a snooker match and come back. It was like it was just practice all the time.
Yeah.
So I made a conscious decision that I would sort of treat it more like I would on a normal snooker year. I'd turn up the day before, I'd stay the night, I'd book my practice, I'd prepare properly, and it seems to have worked out all right, because the early season was a bit tough for me. I lost a few matches. I may not have won them anyway. The guys are playing good stuff these days, but I just never felt that I was properly prepared. So I sort of made a decision to, okay, it's going to cost me a few more quid in expenses, but it's going to give me a better chance to win.
Yeah, I've spoken to some other players who've they've kind of enjoyed spending time at home, especially if they've got like a young kid, and others that feel that they've kind of overspent their welcome because maybe their partner's not used to them being at home so much. So, I mean, are you kind of in between? Are you happy just to kind of, like you say, you don't live too far away? So have you found like a happy balance at the moment?
Yeah, no, I don't like always stay the night before. If I'm playing in the evening, I'll use as an advantage to myself. I'll just drive up in the afternoon. But it was just too convenient at first, and it was because it takes me 45, 50 minutes to get to my club to go and practice. So it was taking me an hour to get to Milton Keynes. So it literally felt like I was going for a practice game, and my head wasn't in the right place to play a proper game of snooker, and I was coming up short a few times, just concentration wise and stuff. But no, on the flip side, it's been a godsend, to be able to be at home, especially with the kids being off school and helping out at home and stuff like that. It's been nice, yeah.
So, Joe, team titles, multiple Pro-Am tournament winner, runner-up at the Masters, the Snooker Open, Players Tour Championship, the European Open, Wuxi Classic, World Open, European Masters, winner of the Merseyside Professional Championship, Champions League, Yixing Open, I never get that right, and I can never say the Zoo Open, I never get that right neither.
But I don't even attempt it.
Multiple quarterfinals, multiple semi-finals, and you still even have time to get in the commentary box. Joe, it's been a busy career for yourself, mate. Where did it all start? How old were you when you actually started?
Yeah, no, it's been good. All right, I haven't got a massive trophy cabinet, but I can't really complain. It's been really, snooker's been my life. It's served me well. I'm all right, sort of set up good for the future. But yeah, it all started. I was born and bred in London, St John's Wood, North London. The story goes, my mum and dad, I'm the eldest of 3 boys.
Yeah.
And my dad's, he's never been any good at snooker, but he's always liked it. He's not really a sports person as such. But he used to watch snooker on TV, as I think most people did in the 80s. And they noticed that I was sort of fixated to the TV from a very young age when the snooker was on. So they decided to buy me a little 4-foot snooker table one Christmas. I think I was about 6 or 7 years old. And they said they would repeatedly get woken up in the morning by me knocking balls in at 7 o'clock in the morning. So at the age of 9, my dad took me to a snooker club. It happened to be Jeff Folds' snooker club in Ealing, because they run a little Saturday morning school for kids. And I went there age 9, and Alfie Burden was there, age 6. He was knocking balls about age 6, yeah. So that's where it all started. That was my sort of first experience on a full-size table. That sort of progressed. Even though it was still in North London, it was a bit too far for my dad to take me on a Saturday. But I went there for a few years. You know, I won a few little handicap competitions. I've still got the picture, because back then, if you won it on a Saturday, you got £25, and my dad laid the £5 notes out in like two in the corner, one in the middle, and took a picture and framed it. So I've still got that. It was my first ever win, 25 quid. So I was only like 10 or 11 years old, and I'd be, you know, all day. There was like 40, 50 people in this tournament. So that was a good little win. And then I went from there to Camden Town, which is where I sort of started to get a bit more serious about it. Started to play in a few under-16s events and things like that with some good amateur players, played for London and people like that. They was always too good for me, but I was, you know, I knew I sort of started to really enjoy snooker and wanted to do it a bit more seriously than just having a laugh. And then probably the biggest breakthrough for me came when my parents decided to leave London. They left London, come down to Cambridgeshire, and there was literally nothing to do. You know, I know it's only 80 miles down the road, but it was literally like going to another planet from what I was used to. You know, I was a young kid brought up in like a big city, and all of a sudden I come here, and there's like one bus running the day and things like that. It was just a completely new world for me. So it was, I got into a local snooker club. My dad built a snooker room in the back garden because the club was 20 miles away. You know, that was all new to me as well. And I just really started to get good. You know, I won the sort of county championship and played in the men's and the boys team age sort of 15. I just started to get good and just kept going, really.
Was there anyone that you could practice with kind of your age? Because you'd started so young, and obviously you'd by the time you'd moved down there, you're pretty experienced for somebody, even though you were still a young lad. Was there anybody that you could kind of grab onto and practice with?
Well, yeah, there was. Well, in like I'm like 15, 20 miles from Peterborough, so it didn't take long. You know, I won a tournament, and then they obviously local press, they want to take a picture, blah blah. So and then this guy contacted my dad and said, like, he's a real keen snooker mad person, and I've since had conversations with Jimmy White about this man, because Jimmy White knew him as a young boy as well. This man just loved snooker, and he was brilliant. He was like a 70-odd-year-old man, lived on his own. His children had no interest in sport, and he used to take me around. And he used to take me to play like Barry Pinches, who was like English amateur champion at the time. I'd go to Peterborough twice a week to play Mark Wildman, who was professional at the time. You know, full of knowledge. There was also like good county players. Mark Gray was another. Yeah. He actually done all right as a professional for a little while, but it didn't work out.
He went on the GB9 tour, didn't he?
He didn't quite work out. He had some good wins. You know, he was a decent player, but didn't quite. And then he became one of the best 9-ball players in Europe. Mm-hmm. So he was a good snooker player. Me and him we dominated the county scene for quite a while. And then I just then things just developed. You know, I started to make a few inroads in the big pro-ams, and gradually my pro career started to take shape. But I owe a lot of thanks to a lot of people that, you know, unfortunately most of them aren't here anymore, because I was, you know, slightly older back then in the late 80s. But a lot of people helped me when I was younger.
Were you a fan of snooker as well, John? All that you said your father was, but did you just love to play? Did you not have much time to watch it, or were you an avid follower as well?
Yeah, no, I still do. You know, a lot of my like peers on the tour, you know, my real close friends, they sort of get beaten in a tournament, and then they don't find out who's won it till they get to the next one. You know, I always say if I get beat, I'm a bit disappointed, and I think, I see, I'm not watching. And then I'll come home and I'll put the telly on and, you know, watch the evening session. I've always been the same. You know, I love it. I've always watched it, always followed it. You know, I know who wins all the tournaments, who gets everywhere. I'm not quite as fanatical as Neil Robertson. You know, he can tell you what shots they missed, things like that. I don't go that far, but I always keep an eye on it. So especially if I'm going to do like commentary and punditry, you know, you need to know how these guys are getting on. You know, I've witnessed a few recently. Some of the big name pundits sort of mention the fact that they've just never seen someone play before, and they're ranking semi-finalists, and you think, well, it's not really on, is it? You know, but
you should have done your homework a little bit.
I've always been like really, really keen. Yeah, I've always sort of followed it from all levels.
So, I mean, was there anything else that you liked to do as a kid, Joe? Were you into any other sport?
Yeah, I played. Obviously, I was the only one from my school in London that played snooker. Yeah. So once school finished, I would go hop on a bus or the tube down to the club and play snooker with friends I had there. Yeah. But in terms of my school friends, I've got medals five-a-side football medals and things like that. I used to play football a little bit. I didn't get good enough to sort of play thingy, but I can play. I've played 11-a-side and things like that. And then as I got a bit older, started to play golf, as most people do.
Yeah.
And I was a keen golfer for a little while. The best I got down to about playing, I suppose I played to about 13 at my best.
Nice.
But that was when snooker was in a different time. When I first got in the top 16, I remember finishing at the World Championship in April. And because I was in the top 16, I had no qualifying. And my first match was going to be at the Grand Prix in October. So I literally had all that time to play golf. It's hard to imagine the snooker tour being like that now, because we literally have like 3 weeks off while Q School's on, and that's it.
Yeah.
But that's what it was like back then. So I needed something to do in the summer months, and that's when I started playing golf. Yeah, and I loved it. I did get the golf bug, like they talk about. It does exist. It is a thing.
I've heard. I mean, it's Sean and Murphy and Will all love it. They're absolutely addicted to it.
It does get you. It does get you. Yeah, you just it doesn't. I don't know what it is. I think it must be some sort of like adrenaline rush you get when you hit a good shot. It just makes you go out there again the next day. Even if you hit like 100 bad ones, you think you can hit all day. The next day you can hit a good one, but.
The say he takes that one shot as you're going to have had the worst round in the history of golf. You hit one shot near the end, it's good. All the rest is erased, and it's all forgotten about, and then you back out the next day.
That's exactly it, yeah. Because you think that one shot, you can repeat that over and over again and like put the perfect round together. But no, it's a tough old sport. But it's great, especially like I say, how the snooker was years ago, it was literally like a autumn to spring tour. Yeah. So the summer was yours. So it was ideal. This was pre-children and all that as well, so it was ideal. It was just perfect.
So, I mean, how old were you, Joe, when you kind of realised that snooker was kind of going to be like a massive part of your life?
Well, I sort of I give myself a few years. I finished school. I'd done well at school. Because I'd done well at school, my parents wanted me to go on and sort of like not leave it there, go on and do A-levels and stuff. So I did that. So I had another 2 years doing my A-levels, and then that went well, and they wanted me to go to university, and I said no, because otherwise, I'm like 18 now.
Yeah.
I'd already turned pro, because back then, you had to take the opportunity when it come along. Yeah. I wasn't really playing. I just sort of, my first 2 years as a pro, I didn't enter all the tournaments because I was studying and stuff like that. So I sort of said to my parents, right, the deal is I do my A-levels, and then they'll sort of back me for a few years.
Yeah.
And that's when I sort of made a real conscious decision. I knew before that, because like I say, I was county champion, I was winning big pro-ams and things. Yes. I knew I was getting good, but that's when that was it then. That was the decision to sort of push on and try and make my way as a professional.
Like you just mentioned there, you turned pro at 18. I mean, it's a really, really young age.
I was younger than that. I turned pro in 92. Yeah, 18. I was... Yeah. 18, yeah.
That's so young to turn pro, Joe. I mean,
yeah.
What would I mean, obviously you're so well known and well respected on the tour. What advice would you give to any of like the young players that are kind of up and coming now, to like that are wanting to turn pro at your age? What advice would you give them?
Boy, the tour's so different now. It's set up so differently. You get on the tour and it's quite possible in your first 4 events you could play 4 top 16 players. Yeah. That didn't happen when I turned pro. When I turned pro, there was like 600 of us. So I was going to play someone that was in the same boat as me, and the worst draw I could get would be someone like myself who was going to be good one day. Yeah. I could have played someone that was he'd made a 70 at his club. There was so many people that shouldn't have turned pro, but that's the way it was.
Yeah.
But going back to your question, I would just say to people, I would tell them to look at people like Neil Robertson and Kyron Wilson and people like that for just look at what happened to them. They've gone on to be 2 of the best players in the world. Neil arguably is in any argument you want to put up about being the best ever. Neil's in it. And he dropped off the tour in his first time on. He wasn't good enough to make it, but he used the experience and he come back stronger. And now, like I say, he's one of the best players in the world, without a doubt. So, you can't be too disheartened when you come on. At the end of the day, you're only 18. Snooker is a long career. Players hit their 40s and they sometimes peak. I didn't win the tournament until I was in my 40s. Yeah. There's other players, people like Selby and that, they're pushing 40 now. Neil's coming up 40 and they're still the best players in the world. So you don't need to do it when you're 18. The days of Hendry and possibly being youngest ever world champions, that's gone. That's out the window.
So you've had a great career, Joe. I mean, many victories. Going through your individual highs and lows would probably have you here until after the Gibraltar Championship. You won the Players Championship in 2015. The grand final in Bangkok. I mean, on where you beat Ding, McGill, Michael Holt, Stuart Bingham. You were 3-0 down against Mark Williams to win 3-0. I mean, you'd made it to like your first ranking final after that long. I mean, I know Neil had just pipped you the year before, but was it just kind of like, was it a massive relief? Even though you'd had loads of victories in the past and, you'd had plenty of titles, was it a massive relief just to finally get that ranking event under your belt?
Yeah, huge, because I'd had a few finals,
Yeah.
My first ever final, I was like rubbing the headlights. Hendry just absolutely just bullied me off the table, and I played well that week, but I was too raw to win a final against a great champion like that.
Yeah.
But then it was a few years till I got another one. But yeah, when I was playing Mark Williams, I was just, I just thought, well, it's just not ever going to happen for me. I was every conversation that you ever heard, best player never to win a tournament. It was me, Ryan Day, and Anthony Hamilton, and and it does. You do think about it. I lost 9-8 to Neil. I was 8-7 up, and he hit me with 2-1 visits in China, and I think, just never gonna end, And I even like PTC finals. I played Ronnie in one, and he beat me, and I played Steve Maguire another one. He beat me 4-2, and it was just, I just thought, what have I got to do, and just finally win one was a massive relief. Yeah. But it doesn't. At the end of the day, all right. The money was nice, but you win money all your career. It doesn't really just comes and goes, but. It wasn't that. It was to not win one. If I'd not give up. If I'd stopped playing snooker and not won one, it would have been something really like missing in my sort of snooker career. I'd hoped to have won more than one. I still hope to win another one, but to have had like so many near misses would have been like quite painful. Yeah.
On a personal note regarding the shootout, obviously you've had such a great career and so many battles to get to the semis and to the finals and over multiple days. The shootout was on recently. I think it's great for the younger lads trying to get some money, trying to kind of, especially the mid-table lads. I mean, I know Michael Holt won it the previous year, and then, things like that. But regarding yourself, do you think it should be a ranking event because of all these people who've, like yourself, who have fought all the way to get to these finals, and then in the space of 40 minutes play, somebody could have won a ranking event and be kind of like, yeah, they're a ranking event winner. I mean, I know a few people think it's a great idea, but some people don't.
Yeah, no, I don't think it should be put in the same bracket as, a ranking event winner, because it's not the same. It's not played under the same rules. Same as like a lot of the guys that won PTC events back in the day, they're classed as minor ranking events. But when you look at them, the fields were so strong, and it was only the fact that they didn't carry like proper ranking points, but they was harder to win than some of the ranking events we played in. They were really tough. So it's hard what you call a ranking event. I think it's a conversation for another day. Like, I have conversations all the time on the commission. I think if snooker ranking list wasn't the way it is, if it wasn't like pounds for points, I'd have no problem with it at all. If, let's just say the Welsh Open that Jordan just won, let's just say for argument's sake, you got 8,000 points for winning that tournament. And if you won the shootout, you got 3,000 points, which is probably a good comparison. Then I'd have no problem with it. But the fact that Ryan Day, nothing against Ryan, whoever wins the shootout, Ryan Day just got 50,000 ranking points. I could go and win that Pro Series Tour Championship, which is a lot of matches, and get £30,000. And that's where it breaks down. If it was a points-based system rather than a pounds-based system, then I don't think anyone would have a problem with it.
Yeah. After you won your ranking title, you'd finished the season 9th, which was kind of a career high at the time. Was breaking into the top 10 a goal of yours at any time?
Not really, no. Yeah. Top 16 was always a massive thing for me. Same as, like back then, the rankings were different. If you where you finished at the end of the season was where you started. The following season where you stayed. So there was always like the top 64, top 32, top 16 thresholds, and getting in the top 16. I had a few. When I was younger, I wanted to get everyone wants to be world champion when they're 12. You know, I soon lost that sort of dream. I was, you know, if it happened, it happened. I didn't stop believing, but I wasn't like searching for it. I wanted to get in the top 16 because, you know, I'm like a consistent, solid performer. So that was like a good thing for me. That was like basically would show off everything that I'm like all about.
Yeah.
So getting in the top 16 was a big thing for me. Getting to the one table set up at the Crucible was another one of my sort of dreams, which I achieved. Didn't want to lose, but I did. But I still played on the one table and winning a tournament. So, you know, sort of, not sort of almost got most of them, really.
Mark Davis reached the final of the 2018 English Open, having turned pro even just a year before you. Do you feel like players are kind of now getting better with age, as it seems to be kind of like a running trend? I mean, obviously I know Stevens coming back, and then there's Ronnie, you know, Higgins, Williams, Stuart Bingham, yourself, who are kind of playing some amazing snooker at the time. So do you think there's something in that? People are just seem to be getting better with age for some reason. I don't know what it is. Something in the water.
I think there's a few reasons for it. You know, obviously, snooker's a really hard game. It takes a long time to understand like everything that's going on in snooker. And when they talk about experience, it's not just experience like with age, it's experience in different situations. You know, I've played thousands of snooker matches, but I've never played one like I played the final session against Ronnie at the Masters. You know, I was totally inexperienced. And even though I've been playing 20 years, I wasn't experienced for that. You know, I was just not ready for that situation at all. So experience comes with putting yourself in the position over and over again before you're ready to like step up to the mark.
Yeah.
So it takes a long time to get good at snooker. Another reason I think is the change in format that Barry Hearn brought in. Talking about Mark Davis, you know, he's a real good pal of mine. And we said a long time ago, there was younger lads coming on the tour, good players. And we heard them saying, oh, this is the best thing that can happen to snooker. You know, watch all these old guys fall off the tour now. It'd be like years ago, like Dennis Taylor, when they all fell off the tour. And me and Mark Davis looked at each other and we went, I don't think they understand. They don't realise the gulf in difference between like us and them. And they hadn't had what we had. We had the grounding of having to win half a dozen matches before you got to play a top 16, top 32 player. You know, by the time we got to play them, we were ready. These guys were just thrown at the deep end. I think they thought it was going to be like the same again, you know, like when the class of 92, they talk about when they just steamrolled the old pros out of the way, but it wasn't like that. And I think the change in system helped people like me and Mark Davis far more than it helped the young guys turning pro at the time, because all of a sudden our experience counted for so much, and we're playing these guys in round 1, round 2, and we're just getting enough points without actually doing anything to keep ourselves at the top. And obviously, with winning a lot of matches brings confidence, brings consistency, and I think that's why you saw a few of us sort of probably have our best years. Mark King's another one, you know. Been a great player for a long time, but it took him a long time to win a tournament, even though he had a few finals. Anthony Hamilton. I think the system Barry Hearn set up, I don't think it had the results it was expecting, but it certainly had results for a lot of players.
Yeah. What has been your most favourite moment in snooker, Joe? Now, I know there's a hell of a lot of moments in there. You've just mentioned the thousands of snooker games that you've had. But do any kind of stand out more than others that you think back on?
Yeah, I think the one... I think the reason that the championship in Thailand doesn't is because I never had my family there to sort of witness it and things like that. You know, it was a great moment for me personally. And, you know, the phone call afterwards, the FaceTime afterwards was amazing. But it wasn't, you know, how I envisaged winning the tournament. So I still think that probably the most iconic moment in my snooker career is when I beat Steve Davis on my debut at the Crucible.
Yeah.
Because like the pictures don't actually pick up what was going on there. I had like an army of fans from the club and my brothers and my dad. And my dad sort of almost fell off the balcony. He sort of leaned over so much to celebrate when I knocked the black in. And when I looked up and saw them all up there, that was like, yeah, it was just probably the best moment in my snooker, even though like I won the last 32 in the World Championship. You know, I've won them lots of times and I went on to do a lot better than that. But that moment, Crucible debut against an absolute legend, Steve Davis, and the way it worked out as well on the black, it couldn't have been any better. And that's probably the most vivid memory I've got in any snooker match ever.
And as your father is a snooker fan, that must have been absolutely. I mean, it'd be
Yeah,
just an unbelievable moment to watch his watch his son do that.
yeah, it was incredible. And then obviously the big furore of it, and then back then it was like was it 2001, I think it was. And on the next day, me and my dad were like sent a page of the Sun newspaper. There was big massive story about how London cabbie's son beat Steve Davis. It was like, it was in the middle of a national newspaper, both double page spread. It was just ridiculous. So yeah, it was amazing. And to look up and see all them people there, it was, because what you always dreamed about as a kid. You dreamed about playing at the Crucible, and it is without doubt the most special venue you could ever play snooker ever. No matter what you've done in the game, it's still the greatest venue ever.
That's a hard debut, though. Like, if you get someone like Steve Davis, it's like, cheers for
Well,
that.
it couldn't have gone any better.
Yeah.
I remember saying, my dad said to me, like, because they'd done the draw, and they said, who do you want to get in the draw? And I said what everyone says, I don't care, I'll beat anyone. But I didn't. I sort of said to him, so it'd be nice I did actually say to him, it'd be nice to play Steve Davis, because at the time he wasn't like playing to the level he did play at. He was still a top 16 player, but it was a winnable game, and also It was a legend. To play a legend at the Crucible. I think I said Steve Davis or Jimmy. It would have been like to play any one of them. And as it turned out, I played Steve Davis, then Ronnie. So it was, it was a pretty special debut. But yeah, it just couldn't have worked out any better, and it was going like a dream. I made a century in the first session. Back then, I was one of the only few players to have ever done that. Times are different now; they make 2 or 3 on the trot. But back then, it was a big thing. I was 7-2 up overnight. It was all like loving life, and then end up winning 10-9 on the black. So it was just perfect. It worked out perfect.
Are there players that get you fired up more than others, or is it just another day at the office every game? I mean, a lot of players say that they play the table. I mean, I know that you're much more experienced than that, but is it other players that sometimes you see and you go, I'm fired up for this game?
Not anymore. I think there was a few years ago. I've changed. I've matured quite a bit now. There was always that not nasty element of revenge, but if you'd lost to someone before, I had a couple of years of like really wanting to beat Ali Carter after he beat me in the world semi-final.
Yeah.
But, that will change. You can't go into a match like that. Another one was I had a thing where Peter Ebdon used to like, infuriate me. I really wanted to beat Peter Ebdon for no other reason than just the way he played and like his intensity. So I thought I had to match it. But
yeah,
there's no grudges. Never had a grudge against anyone. There's a few players I've not enjoyed playing, but no, I've never had any like grudges or any like fallouts with any of the pros.
So you've been a professional for years, Joe, and like you say, you've been all over the world playing. Apart from the Crucible, I mean, do you have a favourite venue that you kind of look forward to on the calendar?
Well, it goes without saying is that the Masters was always a real special one. My first ever overseas trip was to Shanghai, and that was really memorable. We had a great time then. It was done differently then. We qualified down to the last 16, and myself, Peter Lyne, Stuart Bingham, and Paul Sweeney, actually at the time, another name from the past, we sort of qualified at Blackpool, and it was all our first times, to go away. So we was like 4. So we weren't young lads, but we were inexperienced when it comes to like travel, and that was a real eye opener for me. The first time I've been on a business class flight, and all these things were taken care of by World Snooker at the time. They paid for everything. 5-star hotel in the middle of Shanghai. It was amazing. Yes, and for that reason, I think Shanghai has always been a little bit special. I've always enjoyed going to Shanghai, and Thailand obviously for its obvious reasons, and that's where I had my biggest win. That was another one of the first events I qualified for overseas. My brothers and that come out with me. We had the first time I ever qualified for that, and then we had a week down in Phuket after I lost to Mark Williams for a change. I think he won the tournament actually. I think he ended up winning the tournament because I remember coming back from Phuket a week later, and he was on the plane like with the trophy, and I was just all I was carrying was a bad hangover. So it was I've always enjoyed the travelling, but the Crucible and the Masters, I was lucky I played at the Wembley Conference Centre.
Yeah.
You hear about it all the time, how iconic it is. And it was an amazing venue, tremendous. First place I ever watched snooker. My dad took me out of school one day when I was a young kid to go and watch Jimmy White play Ray Reardon.
Yeah.
So it was always a special venue for me. But I actually prefer the Ali Pali, to be honest. I think it just brings a bit more intensity. Yeah.
A lot of people say as well the Tepidrome as well, the German math. That's a lot of people.
Yeah,
say
I
that's
like
beautiful.
it, but I agree. And I worked there last year for God, horrible Brandon Parker. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
He got me a week's work because he thought I'd be like good there with doing the MC like stuff with Rolf Kerb, like punditry stuff. And that's the first time I'd witnessed the semi-final stage. So I've got to the quarter-final a few times. So it's one of them venues. It changes dramatically from the early rounds to the one table. Yeah. It's a really weird setup. It's brilliant because of the crowd and the atmosphere they create. But in the early rounds, it's really difficult to play with the tables around the outside.
Right.
It can be really distracting and off-putting. You really got to concentrate hard. But when I was there to do the work last year, I stayed for the entire duration of the tournament, and the crowd are, we've had some good crowds in snooker, but I think they're the best. That semi-final and the final when Neil played Judd, it was, I don't know how Neil and Judd, I got tingles from just watching. It was incredible. The atmosphere they created was absolutely phenomenal.
A lot of people don't know this, but you suffer from ankylosing spondylitis, which is kind of that inflammation of kind of the joints in the spine. I recently had Chris Small on the podcast, and he was speaking about it. Now, that unfortunately, that cut Chris's playing career very short. When did you find out about this, Joe, and how do you kind of manage it?
I started to get a bad back quite a few years ago, and I put it down to the fact that I was probably playing too much golf and stuff like that. That's what I thought. I used to go to the gym regularly and things. I used to get a few aches and pains, and just put it down to the fact that I play snooker 4 hours a day, then go and play golf for 3 hours. Just general, just hurting really, not good much. And then it just seemed to get worse and worse. And it's not a disease like many people know about. So you go and see your doctor and he says, your early signs of sciatica. When I showed him where the pain was, and the pain used to move from place to place all the time. And then I remember being in a tournament in China, in Wuxi, and I phoned probably my best pal on the tour, Gerard Green. Yeah. And I phoned, I said, Jerry, I need you, mate. He said, what's that? I said, I was playing that evening against Ricky Walden.
Yeah.
I said, I can't get my shoes on. And he's like, Jerry's quite blunt and black and white, so you can imagine what he said. I said, no, Jerry, I'm serious. I cannot get my shoes on. I physically couldn't bend over to tie my laces up. I couldn't get them on.
Yeah.
And I just thought, when I get home, I've got to do something about this. I'm in agony. And I went to Adam Brooks, and I had all the scans and everything, and that's what it come back as, and it all made sense. I had 6 months with a physio that worked on the England's Olympic rowing team. So they obviously have a few back pains and stuff, and he really helped me and give me a lot of stretches to do. So I just manage it now, and to be honest, I don't know what it's like to not have a bad back. I think I've got so used to the pain. It's not excruciating pain. Don't get me wrong. I'm not in agony, but I've got so used to it, not feeling normal.
It's just constantly
there. It doesn't bother me. Yeah,
it
has to be really bad for it to really bother me. And I've got strong painkillers that I always carry with me, but I try not to take them. I haven't taken one for a little while. I've still got all the stretches I do if I can feel it. The thing is now I've got so used to it, I can feel it sort of coming on badly, 2 or 3 days before it comes on, and then I'll sort of spring into action and do my stretches and stuff like that and sort of keep it at bay. I should do them every day, and it'll probably be all right, but I don't. It's just a bit of laziness, and but I can, when I feel it coming on, I just sort of spring into action and try and prevent it from getting too bad. Yeah.
Can you still practice as much as you used to?
I can, but I feel it, especially recently, this last sort of 12 months. I play on my own all the time. Sometimes I'll come over after having 3 hours is a long practice for me now. I'll come over for 3 hours and I feel like I've done a day, carrying bricks up and down ladders. That's how it feels. It can be really painful, but I do what I've got to do then. I'll do some stretching, I'll have a hot bath and just hope that when I wake up in the morning, I do notice, I've said to a few players, when I first set out playing a game of snooker, my whole stance will be different. have to like stand with both legs bent for like half a frame until things sort of just move about a little bit, and I sort of get a bit more comfortable, and then I can sort of start to stand properly. Otherwise, it just hurts too much first thing.
So, I mean, a lot of people really enjoy your commentary, Joe. Me, obviously, included. Is that something that you really enjoy? And is it something that you maybe see yourself heading that way once you hang up your cue for good?
Yeah, I do actually really enjoy it. I love it.
Yeah.
I'd love to be like, you know, if when the snooker sort of calms down playing wise, I'd love to sort of do a lot more. But I think the competition's pretty tough. You know, there's a few good commentators about now. I've noticed, you know, everyone's going to have their favourites. You know, There'll be people out there that can't stand listening to me, and there'll be others that really like it. You know, it's just one of them things. You either like it or you don't. But I think there's a few good ones about now, and you know, there's like big names in the game. But Manus has sort of emerged as a real top commentator. Ken Doherty's doing more and more. Dominic Dale is one I really like. But I, whether it's me or it's someone else, I think it would be nice if there is like a changing of the guard, because snooker has changed massively. You know, I think I'm lucky and I'm in a good position to commentate. I'm sure there's others out there that haven't done it yet that would also be really good, especially players that have lived through the ages. You know, because snooker was played differently in 1992 when I turned pro.
Yes.
And I'm still playing to a high level in 2020. Whereas some of the commentators we got now, and I'm not going to name names, but you know, they hung their cue up before 1990, and the game was played differently back then. And you know, maybe they don't give a proper perspective of what's actually going on. And I think one thing, if I do become a commentator like full time, one thing I don't want to do, which I think a lot of commentators do, is forget how hard snooker is.
Yeah.
They're so critical of like a few bad shots or a few wrong choices or just a bad day at the office. Yeah. I think being a commentator, it's so easy to forget how hard out there it is.
It can be a bit harsh.
Yeah, and at the moment, I'm still fully aware how hard it is, and I you know, you've got to call it as you see it. You have to do that. You know, if you have to, you know, let the public know that they've played a bad shot, but I don't think they have to be quite so harsh sometimes.
Getting back to what you were saying before about like the young players coming through and that. So for you to see someone like, well, I know you mentioned Jordan before, to see what Jordan did just the other day, for the first time to even get or anywhere near that far to play someone like Ronnie in the final, to go down to a final frame decider, it shows some balls of steel to do that, man. You'd think he'd been doing that for years.
It was fantastic to watch. It really was. It was just brilliant. You know, I've known Jordan a couple of years. Great lad.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, I actually didn't realise his age. I thought he was like in his early 20s, because he hasn't done nothing in the game. He's not been around snooker really. You know, I knew he could play a little bit, but I didn't know he was, you know, ready to win tournaments. But it was fantastic, and he played so well. You know, I was sort of commentating on the quarterfinal match in Wales, and he was on the next table, and I sort of had an eye on it. He was playing Selby, and it was incredible how he done that. You know, a lot of players, they sort of get to positions for the first time, like quarterfinals, semi-finals, play a big name, and that's where the story ends. But you could see in Jordan, he just genuinely believed he was good enough to win. And I think a lot of that, I haven't heard any interviews Jordan's done since. I've not really followed it, but I would say a lot of that would be to do with who he's practicing with. You know, he's practicing with Mark Allen, who's a proven winner. And whether Jordan, I'm sure he has sort of paid homage to the help Mark Allen's given him, but without a doubt, it would have helped. You know, I see it all the time. These players, they emerge quicker because of who their sort of mentors or practice partners are.
Well, that's feeding into that. I've got a few questions from some listeners, if you wouldn't mind answering, Joe. I've got them written down here, so I'm just going to read them out here. So, Elliot Slezer, a fellow professional, wanted us to ask you, apart from how he can make 40 breaks again, which would help, you said, how have you seen, in your opinion, with regards to Robbo? You know, how you've seen how much Robbo has improved. I mean, I mentioned before about the fact that he's fell off the tour. Your opinion, how to improve fast like he did after falling off the tour a few times? Because you climbed gradually and Neil just blasted onto the scene, and you obviously saw what he was doing, being in the same club. You know.
Yeah, to be honest, I wish there was a special ingredient, and you could just say to someone, right, go away and do this for 12 months. I don't think there is. I don't really know how to describe this, but snooker is so hard, and there's been so many amazing players at snooker, but only a few have won more than 10 ranking events.
Yes.
So for all the work Neil put in, I'm sure there's players. Straight away off the top of my head, I'm thinking Fergal O'Brien. I'm guessing no one's practiced more than Fergal and worked harder than Fergal all his life.
Yeah.
Yet he hasn't had the success Neil's had. Some players are just blessed with all the right ingredients, and if they got the work ethic, then results will come. And Neil's got that. His temperament is just phenomenal, and his single-mindedness on a snooker table is just a sight to behold. And I don't think you can learn that.
No.
You just get it. I've watched Neil and I've spoke to him after matches, and he's played pretty poorly. He's missed blacks off the spot in the balls. He's played wrong shots, and I'll say to him about it, and he doesn't even give it the time of day.
Right.
He doesn't even acknowledge it. He doesn't acknowledge that he played a bad shot, because he doesn't want that to be in the next one. And it's just phenomenal. I don't think you can actually say, right, go away and do this and you'll be Neil Robertson. I think some people have just got it, and they just work hard, and they get what they deserve.
Yeah. Okay, I've got Thomas Heal, who's the Deputy Director of the ICEA Sports Development Committee for Chinese Pool. He said he's a massive fan of you, and he has a question. Now, he knows that you played in the Star Chinese Pool World Championships a few times, and you have a very good record in them, especially in the 2019 event. Do you enjoy Chinese pool, and did you enjoy the tournaments? He's asking.
Yeah, I grew up playing snooker, and I wasn't one of these that started out on a little pool table. So I never had any fondness of pool ever. I had no time for pool. Pool players and snooker players don't mix, blah blah blah. So I never really give any credit to any sort of form of pool. But when I went to play in the Chinese pool, it was the one game it's the only other cue sport I've ever enjoyed. Yeah. I think I'm not just saying this because that man's asked me a question, but I think it's the perfect mix for snooker players, 9-ball players, English 8-ball players. It's the perfect game for all them people to be as close as equal as you could possibly be. It's a real good test. I like the way the rules are. The tables are difficult, so you need that element of skill with your cue action as well as your brain to be tactically aware. And I did really, really enjoy it. And yeah, I'm sure when it's back on again, I'll go again.
Yeah, I had Gareth Potts on, and obviously Gareth has lived over there for a while. I know Stephen Hendry went over there for a while. And to have a longevity of that game, like you say, it is as tough as it looks, because it looks like a hard game. Obviously, when people have spoke about the rankings of how hard cue sports are, obviously snooker's right at the top, but not far behind. You've got Chinese 8-ball and that, because them pockets can be a little bit tight.
Yeah, there's an art to it. It's like, it's a bit like snooker, really. The pool players, they've obviously got the edge. They know the patterns. They break off and they know exactly how they're going to clear up straight away. They're incredible to watch. The real good ones do it. But it's a great game, and it is really, really tough. I've been over there like 4 or 5 times now to play in it. And then you get the guys come over and you meet them for the first time, and they're all good lads, like the English 8-ball players, and they're quality ball players. But they get on the Chinese 8-ball for the first time, and they're like, "Whoa, this is not what we was expecting." They thought they would just come over and get some easy money, but it just doesn't work like that. It is pool, but it's not as we know it.
There's not many places to practice that as well over in the UK, I don't think. There's not many clubs you can walk into and see like a Chinese star table there just sitting there. Yeah.
No. But I think where I play, because I had a bit of success over there and I really enjoyed it, and I said how many people are playing it, they was looking into bringing one in. But I think if you're a snooker club, I don't think the punters, they might try it once or twice, but people that just play cue sports for fun, it's no fun if you don't buy anything. So I think they'd go back. It'd be sitting there empty, and they'd be back on the English 8-ball and the 9-ball tables, where they can pot them easy.
Okay, and the question 3, Jack Bart, a really talented Newcastle comedian, asked, "The gentleman, is it a self-issued nickname?" He means because he assumes not, because the bloke seems exactly that, a gent.
No, I've sort of grown into it over the years. I probably get more stick than anyone else on the tour for my nickname because my friends will tell you it's the most inappropriate nickname of anyone on the tour. But like I try and say to them, my nickname, I don't get it for the way I talk to them because I talk to them how they deserve to be spoken to.
Yeah.
I get it from the way I deal with like the public and apparently the official word is that Hazel Irvine was the one responsible for my nickname. I never had a nickname, and she said, "Why not the gentleman?" Whenever I've spoken to him, he's always so polite, always says hello, please, thank you, holds doors open. He's a gentleman, so that's where it come from.
Well, there you go.
And I'm stuck with it now.
So what do you do when you're away from the table, Joe? I mean, I know that you're crazy on snooker. You, like you say, you get in the house and put it on. But when you just want to chill out, how does Mr. Perry chill?
Well, at the moment, it's literally we just sit down. We might open a bottle of wine. We watched a few box sets more than ever this time round. We got 3 dogs, so a couple of times a day we take the dogs out. If there's no rules in place, we might. We're about an hour from the seaside. We'd take the dogs to the beach and stuff like that. Play golf. I try and watch football when it's on, but that often has an adverse effect. I sort of start chilled and end up stressed watching my team. So
Arsenal?
Yeah. So it's quite stressful watching the Arsenal these days. But no, yeah, and I'll cloak my mum and dad around the corner. Penny's mum and dad around the corner. They got a nice place, sort of off the beaten track. They got a little massive, open fields and stuff. My brothers are here. Yeah, just general family life, really. It's it's all as you get older, these things change. Once upon a time, it was couldn't wait for Friday to be here, and that would last till Tuesday. But no, them days are gone now.
Yeah. It's like you have a few days like that, and you feel like you need minor surgery to get over it.
I have to actually prepare for them now. Not only do I need like advanced notification that I'm allowed out on a Friday, I have to sort of get ready to suffer the next day.
So, what's your favourite holiday destination, Joe? Where do you like to go if you're given the opportunity to get away? That is.
I've got a few really different. We've got a little place out in Spain which we love.
Nice.
We've got got to know lots of people there. It's a real friendly place. When we go out there, there's always 10, 20 people we know. We meet up all the time, so that's nice. But the Caribbean is, we're at a holiday in St. Lucia.
Nice.
Absolutely beautiful. But then when we were kids, my mum and dad took us to Florida, to Orlando a few times, and completely different sort of holiday, but absolutely love it. And I can't wait for my youngest daughter to be big enough to go on all the rides, and we're off again. I don't think she wants to go, but I do, so we're going.
Are you a chiller on the beach person, or do you just like to go for a bit of a wander?
Yeah, a bit, but I don't go too far. My dad, when we was younger, my mum and dad always used to take us away. My mum would plot up on the beach at 10 and stay there till sort of 7. My dad would hire a car and drive around, find the nearest mountain to drive up, So, yeah, we sort of done a bit of both. I've been up a few mountains in Tenerife and also, on the jet skis and the banana boat and stuff, So, yeah, I like to mix it up. I don't mind the odd boat trip or the odd sightseeing tour when I'm on holiday, but I also like a bit of relaxed time as well.
So, we mentioned Mark Davis, good friend of yours. You're playing in the Gibraltar, starting on the 1st.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've had Mark on the podcast. Really, such a lovely, down to earth guy. Again, it's Milton Keynes, isn't it? So when are you planning on setting off to go down there?
Well, the information's come through the last couple of days. We're not due on till 4:30 on Monday.
Nice.
And we can't have our COVID test till sort of early on that day. So I'll head over there Monday morning, about 10:30, 11 o'clock sort of time, and get there, have the test, and then sit. I'll probably end up chatting to Mark for 2 or 3 hours before we go and play. That's our little quartet. It's me, Jerry, Mark, and Barry was our little main quartet, and Michael Holt gatecrashes apparently occasionally. So yeah, but yeah, no, I'll probably end up sitting having a cup of tea and chatting to Mark most of the afternoon before we go and play. It's just one of them things, isn't it?
Look, Joe, I'm not going to keep you any longer. Thank you so much for taking the time out to come on the podcast and have a chat. Like I've said, I'm not just a fan of snooker, but I'm a fan of yours as well. So good luck with the rest of the season. I hope to speak to you soon down the line. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll do it again. No problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.